Hello, my name is Patrick Usher, and in this video I'm going to talk about what does recovery from POTS, or postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, what does it look like? I'm talking about this because it's something that quite a few people have asked me, and there's also a few comments I've had on the channel which have been asking this question, and so I wish to speak to it. One may get the idea that recovery from POTS implies that someone is then able to do absolutely anything they want, to live life absolutely doing whatever they want, whenever they want to do it. They're living life at 100%, and that is a definition of recovery. So that's something, someone may have that as an idea. And they may think that if someone doesn't meet that criterion, then they haven't really recovered. So I want to speak to that idea because I think it's an understandable but misplaced idea of what recovery constitutes for lots of reasons, and I'm going to speak to them. Now, the first thing is that my definition of recovery from POTS is the same as the medical one. It's as simple as you no longer meet the criteria, right? So when you go from supine to standing, your heart rate does not increase by 30 or more beats per minute. And in fact, it will increase more likely between 10 to 20 beats per minute, which is normal. Everyone's heart rate goes up when they stand up. And depending on how fit you are, assuming your blood vessels are all working fine, and as you'll know from other videos on my channel and from research, that's the main problem which causes cardiac elevation in POTS, at one level anyway, is impairment of blood vessels. But assuming they're all working again, and you're standing up, between 10 to 20 beats increase from supine to standing is normal, right? So when someone is in that category, they no longer have POTS. Now, they may go up in the early 20s from supine to standing, which would probably indicate that they aren't as cardiovascularly fit as they could be. But basically, if it's under 30 consistently, they no longer have it, right? So that's my definition. I also would include then the fact that someone's standing heart rate would be consistently under 100 at rest. It may go up to 110 sometimes, depending on various other factors. You know, one's heart rate goes up in certain circumstances. If you're walking after just having had a heavy meal, it's quite likely your heart rate will be higher than normal. But consistently under 100 upon standing is another criterion that one would use. And that's kind of it when it comes to recovery from POTS, because that's what POTS is. POTS is a neurological condition, in my view, which causes knock-on effects on cardiovascular health. And the cardiovascular impairments lead to a heart rate of consistently over 120 upon standing, with a supine to standing differential of 30 or more beats, often 40, 50, 60 beats per minute. So it's as simple as that. That is what recovery from POTS is. It's recovery from POTS, lo and behold. So then you might say, well, okay, but surely recovery should imply that someone should be able to do absolutely anything they want to do. They should be able to live a full life and work full time, go to the gym every day, travel all around the world, etc., etc. Not necessarily. Okay, not necessarily, because the reasons why someone may or may not be able to live a life at that intensity does not necessarily have anything to do with POTS or having POTS or not, right? Because someone may recover from POTS but may have other issues, which mean that actually they don't live that kind of full throttle life. So someone may have mental health challenges, they may suffer from depression or anxiety, or complex post-traumatic stress, or they may have other health issues. For example, in the case of POTS, I would say that it might be conceivable that someone, for example, might recover from POTS, but they may have also developed an autoimmune condition, whether as a result of limbic system impairment or separately, as is often the case. A lot of people with POTS also have Sjogren's syndrome, an autoimmune condition that causes a lot of dryness and joint pain, etc., and also a lot of POTS patients also often have Hashimoto's, the thyroid autoimmune condition. And there's no guarantee that either of those, for example, would clear up if you recover from POTS. And so both of those things, they may, because I have, certainly with Hashimoto's, I've seen stories of people who have made huge improvements once they've recovered from POTS with their Hashimoto's, to the point that it becomes subclinical. But but there's no guarantee that might happen. So someone may recover from the humdinger that is POTS, but still have these other issues, which may mean that actually they shouldn't or don't want to live at full throttle. So that's what I'd say about that. That or people may have physical problems. That means that they can't, maybe someone has problems which mean that they can't, from injury or whatever, go for runs or whatever it is. Maybe other reasons why someone can't do absolutely everything like a superhuman. Okay, so that's my sort of my understanding of recovery from POTS is that someone no longer has POTS. Right? It's as simple as that, and that's something to be celebrated beyond anything. And if someone recovers from POTS and they can go and live full throttle, that's wonderful and good for them, right? But if someone recovers from POTS and they can't, there will probably be other reasons for that. Diet, for example. If you have a poor diet, no matter if you've recovered from POTS and every other limbic system impairment under the sun, if all you do is eat sugar and cake and pizza and chips, you're not going to feel great. So let's have common sense about this. Okay, so you absolutely not. It's not a case that if you recover from POTS that you can do anything in any way whenever you want to. Okay, maybe for some people, but for most people, one still has to live carefully, within limits, and look after yourself. And all of those things are important. Anything else I want to say about that? Yes, I'll just speak to my own experience for a moment. So in my own case, I feel that although I fully recovered from POTS, I live at around 75-80%. Right? That means that I can do a lot of things, and I can live a full life as far as I'm concerned. But do I rush around from dawn to dusk? I try not to. I used to, before I got POTS, and I'm tired of that kind of lifestyle. So I choose not to pursue it. Right? Sometimes I fall back into old, driven ways, but I get out of them as quickly as possible because I'm not interested in that kind of life. And for me, one of the blessings of illness and recovery from illness has been choosing more and more, and although I still have a lot to learn, but more and more to live a more balanced and heartfelt and peaceful, I would say, life. I think that's very, very important. And I choose that. So I don't choose to live full throttle because I think it's a mistake, personally, from my own experience. Other people may love it. That's up to them, right? So there's a personal factor in all this as well. Okay. Yes. So I hope, of course, I'm pursuing other things. I'd love to get from 75-80% up to living life at 85 or 90%, and I'm looking into other ways to achieve that. I think diet is very important, as I said. I'm interested in the Buteyko breathing method. I have been for some time, and other various protocols that catch my eye, and I think I might try that someday, because I'd love that. But at the moment, I'm very happy with where I am, and I've always been a sensitive sort of person, so. For me, I never really lived at 100%, not even as a child, right? I always needed to pace myself. I always needed to be sensible. And certainly, in the last 10 or 11 years of my life, that's been the case particularly. That's been particularly true. Okay, so that's my own story. So fully recovered from POTS, but I live at 75-80%. capacity, and I'm very happy with that. And I think that's a real blessing. It's a lot better than living at 10% capacity, as was the case at the worst of having POTS. And I want to speak to the myth. No, I'll come to that in a second. I want to speak that there can be a trap if people are rewiring their brains using the DNRS program. There can be a trap that they think that they're meant to feel 100% at the end of it. They're not meant to feel 100% at the end of it. No one feels 100%. Okay. What you feel at the end of it, ideally, is that you no longer have POTS, you no longer have chemical sensitivity, you no longer have chronic fatigue, you no longer have fibromyalgia, you no longer have limbic system impairments, basically, right? That's the end goal. It's not to become superhuman. As Annie Hopper, who designed the program, has put it, when I saw her recently at the conference in Los Angeles that I attended, the conference by the Institute of Functional Medicine, she said to me, the DNRS is not a magic cape. We're still humans, okay? We're still weak, humans, fallible, and life is tough, okay? Having completed the DNRS program almost 2 years ago now, life's not been a bag of roses since then. It's hard, okay? It's real hard. There was a time earlier this year where my dad had a life-saving operation. Everything was crisis, and I had to do a lot of flights and doctors and appointments, and it was a nightmare. After I got back from that very hectic week, I was spent, totally and utterly spent, right? And I was like, oh my God, I got a limbic system impairment again. 3 or 4 days later, I was fine. I was back to myself. But that's normal, okay? Especially if you're the sensitive type. So, life is hard, okay? So people shouldn't put pressure on themselves. If they do the program and they recover from POTS, the aim is then not to become superhuman and 100% super duper all the time, because that's impossible. No one can. Okay, no one can. It's not how life works. You will still get sick. You will still get viruses. You will still be at times weighed under by the stresses of life. All of those things will happen, and more, because that's what it means to be alive. Okay, but you won't have POTS, and that's the blessing. So it is, in fact, this idea that this should be the criterion for recovery, people being at 100%, is it's a myth. No one's at 100%. The only people who are at 100% are those in the movies, right? And even then, they don't get away with it, right? So if you want to go and do whatever you want to do, with absolutely no limits, eat what you want, work incredibly hard, fly around the world, go trekking up lots of different mountains, drink a lot, I don't know, do it. It's a myth. People can't do it and get away with it. Okay, they can't do it and get away with it. Even the fittest athletes, if they go and exercise all the time, they will crash. And there are cases of athletes who have crashed like that, and they develop chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME. So you can't get away with that. We need a balance of rest and activity. This is our human nature, right? So don't let this idea that 100% recovery, you can do anything, you can go anywhere, you can do absolutely everything you want to in life. That's a myth, okay? Use the DNRS to recover from POTS. What an amazing blessing that is. Get your life back, and then look after yourself. Of course, if you're one of those people who, and they do exist, I admit they do exist, like 4 or 5% of people can do whatever the hell they want all the time, it seems. But the rest of the 95% of us, we need to look after ourselves. And that's just sensible. And if you've been through POTS and you don't feel like looking after yourself after you've got better, then you should really think very hard about why that is the case. So that's all I want to say about that. Recovery from POTS simply means recovery from POTS. It doesn't mean you can do anything, because most people can't. We need balanced lives. We need to look after ourselves. We need to remember that there may be a range of other reasons why we should live a balanced life even after we recover from limbic system impairments. We may have other issues, mental health, physical, or whatever, that mean that we should look after ourselves. And the idea that people can live at 100% is by and large a myth. Okay? that's what I want to say about that. I hope you find this video helpful. I hope if you are using the DNRS to recover from POTS, if you at all were starting to think along those lines, that recovery means 100%, that this alleviates some pressure from you. Know that you're going along the right thing, you're correcting the root cause, and recovery from POTS simply means recovery from POTS and all of the nasty symptoms that go with it. So that's all I want to say about that, and I wish you a pleasant day wherever you are.